Hello everyone, wishing you all good health and peace in life. Today, we gently turn the page to a new chapter in the story of Huyen and chapter, written not with ease, but with quiet courage and the hope of a better tomorrow. How did their lives change when they moved to a new place? Far from the chaos of the past, in a land where the morning mist kisses the fields and silence holds its own kind of healing, Huyen and begin again. With each step on unfamiliar soil, they find not just a place to live, but slowly a place to belong. Let us walk with them through this journey of change, tenderness, and quiet resilience. The wind was different in the new land, gentler, cooler, and carrying the scent of bamboo and fresh soil. After so many days of running, hiding, and hoping, Huyen and had finally arrived in the village tucked behind the hills, far away from the past that had once broken them. It wasn't a grand place, just a small slanted house with a thatched roof and creaky bamboo floors, but to Huyen it felt like a cradle for their new life. Maya, her little girl, ran through the wild grass barefoot, laughing as the dog BB chased butterflies. Stood quietly in the shade of a jackfruit tree, a gentle smile forming at the corner of his lips. This was not just a house, it was the first breath of peace they had dared to take in a long time. When they first arrived, the villagers were curious but kind. An old woman brought them warm sweet potatoes. A farmer helped to carry wood. Huyen learned to weave mats in the afternoon while Maya sat beside her, humming songs made of sunlight and innocence. Life was no longer about survival, it was about living again. Who had once spoken little and carried a deep sadness in his eyes, began to laugh more. He built shelves with his own hands. He taught Maya how to count with pebbles. Every evening, he cooked simple meals with wild herbs and sat beside Huyen as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting golden light across her tired but radiant face. They didn't say much, but in that silence, love spoke louder than words. Huyen often woke up before dawn to sweep the yard and boil water. She would stare at the horizon, hands clasped around a cup of tea, whispering thank you to the sky. The nightmares of her past still visited her sometimes, but here, in this quiet corner of the world, she had found a place to heal, not just for herself, but for Maya too. The most beautiful change was not in the walls they built, but in the way they learned to trust life again. In every shared meal, every repaired shirt, every flower that bloomed by their door, Huyen indeed discovered something they thought they had lost forever: hope. And though they had little, they had each other. And that, in this new place, was funnily enough. As the days turned into weeks, the small village began to feel like home. The air was cooler, no autumn had arrived. Golden leaves drifted across the dirt path, and the sound of birds echoed gently through the morning mist. One morning stood outside with a basket of corn, waving to a neighbor who had helped him fix the roof. He no longer looked like the quiet, haunted man who once traveled from town to town with only a photograph in his pocket. Now, he moved with purpose. He spoke with kindness. He smiled not only with his lips, but with his whole heart. Huyen, meanwhile, had found her rhythm in the slow, peaceful days. She joined a group of women who gathered under the tamarind tree to sew blankets for the coming cold season. Her hands moved skillfully, but her mind was always half on Maya, who had started attending the small school nearby. Maya had never been to school before. The first day, she clung to Huyen's skirt, her eyes wide and uncertain. But knelt beside her and whispered, "You're brave, like your mother. Go learn, so one day you can teach others." Maya nodded, and with her little backpack and a ribbon in her hair, she took her first step toward a new future. Life wasn't perfect. There were days when the rice harvest was small, when the rain leaked through the roof, when Huyen's old fears crept back in. But they always had each other. And the village was no longer just a place, it was a community. One afternoon, a young woman arrived in the village. She was thin, with a bruised arm and eyes full of fear. Huyen recognized that look. She had once worn it too. Without hesitation, she invited the girl to sit, to eat, to rest. Dee built a small bed for the guest in the corner of their home. Maya offered her drawings. And slowly, the girl, her name was Lian, began to smile again. It was then that Huyen realized their healing had become someone else's shelter. The peace they had found was now a light for others. And perhaps that was the true meaning of starting over, not just for yourself, but for those still lost in the storm. The air grew crisp as the village prepared for the Lantern Festival, a tradition that marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of a new season. Lanterns made of bamboo and colored rice paper danced in the wind, each one carrying a prayer, a hope, or a memory. For De, this would be his first time joining the celebration. He had seen such festivals as a boy, but always from a distance, never as part of a community, never as someone with something to wish for. Huyen helped Maya prepare a small lantern shaped like a lotus flower. "What will you wish for?" she asked. Maya thought for a moment, then whispered, "I'll wish that this family always stays together." That evening, the whole village gathered by the river. Soft music played. Children ran barefoot with glowing lanterns in their hands, their laughter echoing through the trees. Lin, the young woman who had arrived weeks earlier, stood beside Huyen and Dee, her eyes reflecting the flickering light. She had cut her hair short and started helping at the village kitchen. Healing wasn't instant, but it was real. Dee lit his lantern last. He looked at the soft flame, then at Huyen and Maya. "I spent so long searching," he murmured. "And now, I only wish to never lose what I've found." They released their lanterns together. The small glowing lights floated down the river like fireflies on a journey. Maya clapped her hands in delight as she watched hers drift gently away, carrying her innocent prayer into the night. Later, the villagers danced. There was food: sticky rice, sweet bananas, roasted corn, and stories by the fire. One of the elders turned to Da and said, "You've brought something special to this village. Not just a good roof and a strong back, but kindness. You remind us that even those who come from far away can belong." Dee looked down, humbled. He didn't know what to say. But Huyen smiled and spoke for him. "He reminds us that love, when it's true, always finds its way home." That night, under a sky full of stars, they walked back to their little house. Maya, sleepy and full, leaned against his shoulder. Lin held a handmade scarf Huyen had given her as a gift, and she looked at the home they had built, with nothing but courage and faith, and felt, for the first time in a long while, that they had truly arrived. The days after the Lantern Festival passed gently, like the slow flow of the river near their home. Mornings were filled with the sound of birdsong and Maya's laughter as she learned how to read and write with Dee under the guava tree. Huyen's garden bloomed with chili peppers and morning glories, and Lian often helped her hang laundry under the sun, the two women talking like old friends. Then, one morning, everything changed. A letter arrived. It was brought by an old man who passed through the village, a quiet stranger with weathered hands and kind eyes. He stopped by Dee and Huyen's home and pulled a folded piece of paper from his bag. "This was left at the market," he said softly. "They told me to deliver it here if I passed by the hills." Huyen took it with trembling hands. There was no name on the outside, just a single line, "For Huyen and her." She opened it slowly, and as her eyes scanned the familiar handwriting, her breath caught. It was from Tu. The letter was gentle, yet filled with sorrow and gratitude. Tu had reached her hometown safely. She had reunited with her aging father, who still waited every evening by the gate, hoping one day his daughter would return. Tu wrote of her love for Maya, her respect for Huyen, and the protection she would never forget from Ba. But most of all, she wrote, "Thank you for giving me the courage to leave. I carry your kindness with me, always." Tears rolled down Huyen's cheeks as she finished reading. Dee sat beside her, silently wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "She's safe," Huyen whispered. "Yes," Dee said quietly, "and she's healing. Like us." That evening, Huyen lit a small oil lamp by the window. Maya helped her place the letter inside a wooden box, where they kept their most precious memories. A photo of Maya as a baby, a pressed flower from the day they moved in, and now Tu's words. As night fell, the little house glowed warmly from within, filled with quiet peace, and though the world outside was uncertain, one thing was clear. They had chosen love, they had chosen home, and no matter what came next, they would face it together. In life, we all face moments of deep sorrow, uncertainty, and fear. For Huyen and Dee, their journey was not just about moving to a new place, it was about finding a new beginning after years of pain, loss, and longing. Their story teaches us that no matter how heavy our past may be, there is always hope for a gentler future if we choose love over fear and kindness over bitterness. Their new life in the countryside wasn't filled with riches or grand dreams, but it was rich in small joys. The laughter of a child, the scent of guava blossoms, the warmth of a meal shared under a thatched roof. It was in those simple moments that they discovered what truly matters: family, safety, peace, and the unwavering belief that even after great hardship, people can bloom again. Sometimes, we think that healing means forgetting the past. But Dee and Huyen showed us that healing often means carrying the past gently, with understanding and strength, and using it to build something better. They didn't erase the pain, they honored it by creating love from it. When Maya laughed under the sun, when Huyen planted vegetables with her bare hands, and when Dee patched the roof during the rainy season without a complaint, these were not just daily chores. These were acts of quiet victory, a victory of hope over trauma, of presence over absence, of warmth over cold memories. Their kindness toward Tu, a woman once hunted and terrified, became a mirror of their own resilience. In protecting her, they protected the very values they had learned through their own suffering: compassion, trust, and the belief that no one deserves to face darkness alone. This reminds us that sometimes we become strong not by standing alone but by holding others through their storms. And sometimes, home is not a place, it is the people who stay, who listen. Who cook a warm meal even when there is little rice left, and who whisper, "You are safe now." So wherever you are in your life, whether you are building, healing, or just holding on, remember this story. Let it remind you that even the most broken heart can become a shelter. That even a small bamboo house can feel like a palace if it is filled with love. And that you, too, can be someone's reason to hope again. Dear beloved listeners, as the final breeze of this chapter whispers through the quiet village paths, we thank you for walking beside Huyen, Maya, and all the hearts who searched for love, safety, and home. Thank you for feeling every tear, every smile, and every silent promise with us. Their journey was not only a story, it was a reminder that even in life's darkest corners, light can still find its way in. That love, no matter how quiet or humble, can heal what was once broken. Until we meet again in another story, under another starlit sky, please take care of your hearts, cherish your loved ones, be gentle with yourself, and remember, no matter where you are, someone is always wishing you peace, warmth, and the courage to begin again. With all our love, goodbye for now.